12 o'clock Monday afternoon. Welcome in. It is the halftime show now. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Ed Bird producing on the other side of the glass. As your reaction Monday rolls along, Carolina victorious 35-13 over Kentucky Saturday night over at Williams-Brice Stadium, getting themselves back in the win category. And Bill, we've been talking about it all morning long. You just needed to win. Somehow, some way, you need to get yourself back in the win column before the bye week. And that's what Carolina did, and did it in, I'd say, fairly convincing fashion at the same time.
Win the game. Turn the mic on. Win the game, and it kind of, as you said, look, you had some positives to build off of. You've got some negatives that will give you 2 weeks of footage to kind of overlook and try and get those corrected. But I think you got what you wanted. You're 3-2, and you kept Kentucky down.
Yep.
And the game was chippy. It was a little chippy.
Hey, it's a rivalry.
Which, it validates what we've kind of said. But I think there's a lot of positives. We'll get into those. Defensively, I think we need to be honest about this defense, because I felt like last week, against Missouri, the defense played fairly well. They missed tackles. I'm not trying to argue with that.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what I thought in August is that this offense would have to carry the defense through the month of September. And you looked at the schedule and you said, man, okay, that offense, what we thought in August and July is, that won't be a problem. The offense should be able to hum with no problem. It turns out they haven't been.
Sure.
The defense is going to replace 5 dudes who got drafted. And you're going to have some really young linebackers and a lot of guys who are having to play and make plays for the first time. And so, all right, offense, get them through the first month of the season and then let Clayton White do his thing and kind of develop. And I thought on Saturday night, that's really what, as we go through today, the positive I'll take is, all right, the defense is progressing almost, to me, on pace as I expect. Yes, there's flaws.
Sure.
They're not perfect, Tyler.
Yeah.
But this is a defense that I think when we get, if they can take the bye week and continue to get better, they're going to give you they're going to make mistakes, but they're going to give you some chances to make things happen. Now, we'll also address this after a huge weekend of football. Who is who we thought, and who is more of a pretender?
Yeah, no, and now especially as we get into conference play for most teams, start kind of figure those things out. You blink and we're almost halfway through the regular season. Carolina's got a bye before they play their 6th game, but October is 2 days from now. You know what I mean? That's where we're really getting the meat of things and really start to figure out what exactly teams are. But at the end of the day, you won. That's important. You're now 3-2 on the year. Not where we hoped Carolina was going to be through the first 5 games, but not in a terrible spot either. And again, your toughest slate comes up starting next, where all 5 of your next opponents are ranked in the top 13 right now in the current AP poll, and all of them could end up ranked even higher by the time you get there. We'll certainly have to see. So you got your work cut out for you, but you can at least feel good. And I know Preston's talked about this a lot over the years with you and him doing the early show, where there's something about going out there and doing your job that helps, right? Again, no matter what the opponent is, whether it's a Kentucky, an SC State, some other FCS school, and you beat them by 70 points. When you go out there and do your job, there is a confidence that comes with that most everybody on this team had coming away from Saturday night.
Well, I think I agree with Shane Beamer. I agree with a lot of coaches. Man, you put almost 365 days a year of work, 12 months. Those off seasons are grueling. Winter workouts, summer workouts. I don't really care how you win. Beat Jacksonville State 32-28, whatever, do what you got to do. Or what is it, 38-28 a couple years ago? Mm-hmm. It's a win. Kentucky on Saturday night, it's a win. You celebrate the wins in college. They're hard to get. They are hard to get. And Kentucky is not a great football team. Cutter Boley has got a long way to go. But you won the football game. You did it convincing. I was wrong. I said it would be a fourth quarter game. I said in the late minutes, you'd be sweating it out. Well, most of the fans had been allowed to go hop in their car and head home and hit the interstate. So you won the ball game. You moved to 3-2. Conceivably, South Carolina is, I don't know, maybe what? Let's go Dabo. You ready?
Sure.
All right, let's go full on Dabo.
All right.
South Carolina's what? Maybe a play, maybe 2 away from being 4-1. If Mazeo Bennett runs just a hair faster, if Lenore Sellers' pass has just a hair more air under it.
You were one explosive away from maybe beating Missouri.
Maybe. I mean, look, again, we can play a lot of games with that, right? That's the easy thing to do. But if you're sitting here at 4-1, I think a lot of people would kind of be like, all right, we're content with that. We don't like the Vanderbilt loss. We're not supposed to lose to Vanderbilt. That's embarrassing, and you can't justify, well, one or two plays with Vanderbilt changed the game.
But you can say, hey, your quarterback didn't play for the, majority of that game because he got lost with about 2 minutes to go in the second half. And again, who knows what happens if he stays in there, but you probably score more than 7 points. I feel like if Sellers does play that game, considering how well the offense did move the ball, they just couldn't finish drives.
Yeah, so see, look, we can be really positive on a Monday, on a dreary Monday, and I think that's just where you got to be now. You get the bye week to kind of celebrate, and again, we'll talk about it. LSU, oh boy, who exactly is LSU? Oklahoma comes after that. Oklahoma potentially without a John Mateer. Alabama now, what is it? Alabama's now back to being a top 5 team. All of a sudden, Ty Simpson's a Heisman candidate. That's my point on that. Take Mississippi.
Ole Miss might be the best team in the country right now.
They actually. So when I talk about these 5 games,
A&M.
A&M. I'm trying to figure out A&M. But the point being is you got the win. You're 3-2. As Preston would always say on the morning show, and this is true. However South Carolina's here, all the goals are still in front of you.
They are.
Technically, all the goals are in front. Everything. South Carolina hadn't been eliminated from the playoffs.
Sure.
I don't know how the SEC will work out if you're into winning the SEC championship or the whatever, but everything's still there.
Yeah.
Would I put my money on it? No.
Well, and look at the teams that you lost to in Missouri, Vanderbilt. Those teams are all undefeated right now. Now, what they end up being at the end of the year, we don't know. But as talked about, this isn't your grandpa's Vanderbilt team that's going to go out there and go 4-8 on the year. Like, they're putting 70 on teams now. That's not something that Vanderbilt usually does. And again, Missouri might have the best running back in the country this year, who may be on the stage for the Heisman Trophy coming up in New York. So you're not justifying the losses there, but you didn't lose to terrible teams.
No, and like I said, we'll go a little homeristic and excuse making and say, look, against Missouri, if Lenore Sellers doesn't take a long sack on the goal line and you score a touchdown, maybe that changes the dynamics of that game. You're up 21-12. Maybe if Lenore Sellers throws the ball with a little more air under it and Mazeo Bennett runs under it, that's another touchdown. Obviously you can also go back and say, well, what if so-and-so does this from Missouri? Or what if they were down there inside the tent? I get it. But let's play the game from the South Carolina standpoint and be positive on a Monday morning. Really coming off of, Tyler, a phenomenal sports weekend between baseball, college football on Saturday. The only thing you didn't get with college football, you got Oregon. You got Oregon and Penn State. But you got Tennessee, Mississippi State. But you didn't get, great final 10-second finishes. You had games that came down to the final minute. Indiana, Iowa was really good. You had really good games taking place. Auburn and Texas A&M on the Plains was a close game and a fun one to watch.
Yeah, outside of a game on Friday night, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point, you didn't have too many wow finishes compared to maybe what you've had over the past couple of weeks, but fun nonetheless. And you really got some big heavyweight matchups. And again, as fun as it is to be in Williams-Brice Stadium, there was definitely that FOMO of man, there's 2 elite games going on right now that I'm not going to immerse myself in as much as if I wasn't here. But gone back, watched highlights and caught up on all those games, and they were. They were good. They were good for sure.
Yeah, overall, great weekend. Did you stay up last night and catch Cowboys, Packers?
I did.
Did you football? Okay, you didn't football yourself out.
I didn't football myself out, and all the way to the end to see a tie at the end of it.
I liked it too. You know what? I kind of was on board with the tie.
Well, here's the thing. The NFL finally fixed its overtime rules because there's nothing more infuriating than being on the losing side of, our offense didn't even touch the ball. They made it a rule for the playoffs, made sense, and they finally put it in the regular season. And I think we're going to see more ties now because of this because, Team A goes down, scores touchdown. Team B goes down, scores touchdown. And teams' philosophies in overtime, now it's only a 10-minute period, is to try and take off as much time as possible to limit your opponent for a possession, knowing they're going to get one. So I feel like ties are going to be on the uptick. And the Packers very nearly lost that game because their next to last play on that third down, they got a second.
Did the Packers nearly lose it, or did Jordan Love nearly lose it? Because Jordan Love is kind of in charge there on that final play, and I don't know if he thought the clock stopped. I don't know what exactly was going through his mind. But he didn't do that. That wasn't on purpose.
No, it wasn't, and got very lucky to have a second on the clock to be able to kick it and have a tie. And I've never been in person to see a tie happen, but that's such a complex feeling of like, we didn't win, but we didn't lose. And it was fun, great fun game, back and forth, wild. The Cowboys are going to play a lot of wild games, it looks like, this year. I don't know how I'd feel if I was a fan of either one of those teams watching them tie after a wild game like that.
Yeah, it was it was a fun game. I will say this.
Fun game, sure.
Final minute and a half there last night was a lot of fun. So you had that going. Ryder Cup. Did you get into the Ryder Cup at all over the weekend?
I did. Obviously, Europe got a nice, healthy lead there. America staged a little bit of a comeback, but too little too late. And Europe, once again, it kind of has this event on lock as of late, it seems.
Yeah, they care more. They really honestly care more about it. And listening to them, it was interesting to hear Luke Donald, but also some of the players talk about how they go about designing their Ryder Cup teams, whereas with America, it's kind of like, all right, we're going to put 12 guys together here a few months before, and now let's go play golf. Whereas the European team brought back 11 of the 12 guys from Rome, and they take it. They want to win it. They take it very seriously. I mean, they are in tears. The Americans probably all woke up this morning and moved on to whatever else they were thinking about, whether it's the off season for the PGA and getting ready for January, or maybe spending time with their family or whatever. The Europeans wouldn't have felt that way. The Europeans take it extremely serious, and it's a great event. I thought Bethpage. I wish the course had been. I do agree with. Keegan Bradley. I wish he'd have set it up differently, but the course I thought was a lot of fun. I thought the crowd within reason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you see what happened yesterday? Did you catch the noisemakers yesterday and the initial thought of what had happened?
No.
This was pretty
Fill
funny.
me in.
So yesterday, Roy McIlroy complained early on, I would guess, and understandably so, about, and you see them everywhere now. We've got a machine out here now with these little ducks.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with all these little ducks all over the America now. But anyway, people were squeaking them.
Okay.
You can squeak them. And so the announcers and people started to think that we, Americans or whomever, had come together and snuck these ducks into the tournament to harass McIlroy, Shane Lowry, whomever. Turns out the course was selling a drink.
Oh.
With these little, and according to, I don't know if this was legitimately true or if it was a joke on the broadcast, they said the drink had a little bit of moonshine in it too, but it also had a duck in there, little squeaky duck. So
yeah, how did they not see that coming?
Yeah, little poor planning in New York for that. But I thought that was really good over the weekend. Again, a lot of fun, and now sets us up also for Major League Baseball playoffs starting tomorrow that I think will be a lot of fun.
Mets have metted once again.
What happened?
I don't know. They were the best team in baseball 2 months ago, and just collapsed down the stretch.
That's an understatement of collapse.
For somebody that me, my interest with postseason baseball does take a hit when the Braves aren't involved. I'm still going to watch, but I'm not as into it as I would be if the Braves were involved. But seeing the Mets collapse, always a fun time.
Felt a little bit better.
Felt a little bit better. I'm like, all right, well, at least they're not going to have a good time either.
We'll have to hear Jay Phillips when he comes in here in just a little while. I'm sure he'll be more happy about that than the Braves not making the postseason.
Probably so. We'll get back into what happened on Saturday night over at Williams-Brice Stadium as the halftime show continues on Your Reaction Monday. Let us know your thoughts. 803-404-6100 Firehouse Subs text line, AAA Heating and Air phone lines here on the game. It's all right here for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, with First Palmetto Bank. If you're looking for a mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder has got you covered. He's helped so many 107.5 game listeners and can help you as well. When we hit the game, personally recommend them. Owned and operated right here in the Midlands, Jacob has local decision makers, which means quick and precise processing and underwriting. If you're looking to make a move, give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005 or mail him at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com. Interest rates have stabilized as well as the local housing market, and now is a good time to buy a house. Jacob and First Palmetto Bank have products to help home buyers, and if you're considering building a home, they have no-nonsense construction loans that fit your needs. It's a great time to buy. Again, give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005. Jacob's MLS number is 198432, and First Palmetto Bank is a member of FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Oh, I mean, there's plenty, and again, we have what we have, Jack. We have our plan to win, like a lot of people have, and for us, that's run the ball, stop the run. That's win the turnover battle, win the explosive play battle, play smart football, which is penalties, and then dominating the fourth quarter.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Bill Gunner along with you here on your Reaction Monday on the game. That was Coach Beamer talking a little bit about some of the things they focus on when it comes to trying to win ball games and, stopping the run and running the ball, two of the most important things there. And we did see a much better performance on the ground for South Carolina Saturday when it came to the offense, and led mainly by LaNorris Sellers, looking like, well, quite frankly, his old self again.
We typically win
outside with making some design runs as well as having some scrambles. I believe, and Wes brought this up in the last hour, I think coming into the game, he had 8 total scrambles on the season. He had 6 on Saturday night. Several of those, what I like to call the magic plays, where he dumps a guy over his shoulders and skirts up the sidelines for 15, 17, 20 yards or something along those lines. He just, at the end of the day, looked a lot more comfortable. I don't know if that was by design, if he got coached to do something differently in that game, but he looked like the LaNorris Sellers we've been waiting for this entire season with running the football.
All right, well, let's start with this. And I'm not trying to put the win down. This is not to be negative Nelly. This is not to not find joy in a victory. But one of my questions last week, one of the things we discussed is, all right, what is Kentucky?
Yeah.
There was a lot of feeling that maybe Kentucky was the 16th best team in a 16-team league in the SEC. My opinion, if you listen to the program for 5 days, was I think Kentucky was better. I thought we were basing it too much on what they did in 2024. And now that we're going to come back to that Sellers thing, because that's part of this. Now that you've seen Kentucky, you know what the league, you mentioned it, we're starting to get into conference play. We saw what Mississippi State did. We've kind of been paying attention to Florida. Is Kentucky the worst team in the league?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
All right. We know so if we're gonna establish that, if we're gonna look at this team and we're gonna establish that as our baseline, we know against South Carolina State that South Carolina wanted to come out and establish the run game without LaNorris Sellers. Basically said, hey, we can do this with Faison, with Attaway.
And you don't want Sellers to take unnecessary hits in a game like that. I get it. It makes sense.
So we didn't see, I feel like if there was a game that LaNorris was coached not to run and take hits, and it was that game. So I come back to Saturday night against Kentucky. If that's what you're going to believe is that, all right, Kentucky, while an SEC team, is the 16th best SEC team, there are flaws there that allowed him to be the guy that we saw towards the end of last year that maybe we will not see moving forward against LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, so forth and so on. But it was fun on Saturday night to be able to view that.
Sure.
There was the clip of him escaping and Shane Beamer, I think it was 2 clips, Shane Beamer on the sideline kind of laughing and enjoying it, but also I believe it was 2 defensive linemen for South Carolina who were sitting on the bench. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter with Gamecock Football, laughing and yelling, don't do it to him, LaNorris.
Yeah.
So it was fun to see, and that's what we've been wanting to see. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to say, okay, that's how it's going to be moving forward, because let's and again, I'm not trying to poo-poo the win, but I don't want to say, they got it figured out. Whew, all right, good.
I think it's more about, because we talk about the fact that Sellers has stayed in the pocket for as long as he has, and there's sometimes you're like, man, why aren't you running away? Why aren't you throwing the ball away? I hope what Saturday night does instills confidence in him once again, like, hey, I'm still this guy. I can make these kind of plays. Yes, you obviously want to continue to be a better all-around quarterback when it comes to keeping your eyes downfield, making throws, and staying in the pocket as long as you can, and that kind of stuff. But don't forget what was your bread and butter a year ago that led to some of those phenomenal plays and allowed South Carolina to win some of those games down the stretch they did. It's when he was making plays like that. And again, that's not, you can't game plan around scrambling, right? It's something that has to happen because the protection's breaking down. You don't have options down the field. But when it does, that's in your back pocket and you can use that. And I do hope that we see more of those kind of things happen when the play isn't there on the passing plays like we've seen through the first couple of games so far.
Yeah, he, again, had some really good plays in terms of just staying on balance. There's the one in particular where he got spun around, and I believe he was down around the 40-ish yard line. It was going toward the zone area away from the student section. I believe that was the second quarter, and he got spun around and broke out to his right and got free and was able to pick up several chunk issues. So I'm kind of interested to see, though. Now LSU what they're going to do in terms of blitzes. We know what they did to Clemson and how they handled that, how they'll use Harold Perkins in that game to maybe spy Lenore Sellers. But certainly on Saturday night, you had the best player on the football field, and he made the plays necessary to get the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the running game outside of that, what wasn't really there. You look at the numbers, Matthew Fuller, 19 carries, 48 yards, about 3/4 of that came on the last drive where Carolina just basically ran the clock out. And, props to them for being able to run the ball in that situation. But, again, how engaged is Kentucky at that point? They're just trying to get to the end of the game. It's not exactly the toughest defensive front you're running against at that point in time. And I don't know if this came across on the TV broadcast or not, but a lot of loud boos when it came to every time Shula would call a run up the middle that ultimately would get at best maybe a yard. You weren't getting hit for losses, but you just weren't getting anything there, as we've seen so far throughout the first couple games of the year as well.
All right, so Chris Clark, I hope, is correct in his stat. I had not heard that until driving in, and he gave the stat. Because I said last week, look, yes, the offensive line's got to be better. We're all in agreement. The offensive line is not perfect. But I said last week, I question these running backs. I wonder if South Carolina has the 16th best running back room in a 16-team league. And I believe it was Chris Clark who gave the stat with you, and I were in the third hour, and he mentioned that there was 40 runs on Saturday night and just 4 broken tackles. Did you catch that stat from him?
Yep.
And look, in this league, running backs have to break. I mean, Ahmad, was it Harvey? Hardy. Yeah, he's breaking tackles left and right. You've got guys, these running backs, nothing's going to be perfect. It's just not going to be perfect. And now to factor in what this offensive line really is, it's not going to be close to perfect. So running backs have to make a guy. You've got to break a tackle, and they're not doing that right now. Yeah, the runs up the middle are annoying.
Sure.
But you've got to be able to break a tackle when you get in there and pick up an extra 4 or 5 yards, and they're just not doing that. So the runs up the middle, the runs to the perimeter right now, I can see why fans on Saturday night would be a little more annoyed with them.
And I do wonder as well, because we saw a good mix of, how they divvied up the carries against Missouri, and Matthew Fuller was getting carries early on in that game. Again, he got the majority of the carries in this one, including all the ones on that last drive to help, salt the game away. Like, is he starting against LSU? Like, again, we thought this was Faison's deal. Attaway's been in there, but it seems like they're getting more and more confidence in Matthew Fuller. And again, it's not like he's going out there and doing leaps and bounds better than everybody else, but there seems to be something here where he's got himself in the mix where he was getting no touches at the beginning of the season.
He's a physical guy.
Yeah.
And, again, as you mentioned, they just decided at the very end they were going to just straight hand him the ball on every possession. I was a little surprised. Luke Doty, I think, didn't keep 1 or 2 and pull it and try and go around the end and race in for a touchdown. But we'll see. Look, coming up, got a kind of a LSU's defense is what they are. They're very talented. They've had some flaws this year, but they're talented. Oklahoma is led by maybe one of the best defensive minds in the country, and Brent Venables. Texas A&M has got Mike Elko. Yeah, get the young man greased up and ready to go, because you're probably going to need him. And right now, at least, he seems to run just with a little more purpose than Oscar Attaway, that maybe gives you that 1-2 punch with Faison that you can go in and maybe create or generate a little bit more of a run game.
Yeah, we'll see. But, again, the Sellers run game at least was a positive takeaway from Saturday night when it came to the offense. What happened to the defensive side of things is they certainly helped out Carolina quite a bit with a couple of defensive scores as we continue on with Reaction Monday. Again, give your thoughts, 803-404-6100 Firehouse Subs text line, as well as the AAA Heating and Air phone lines as the halftime show continues here on the game.
Takes the snap, going to play action, wants to go backside. Intercepted and is caught at the 40-yard line. Going down the far sideline at the 20, at the 10. It's another one. Gerald Kilgore's second touchdown this season for 45 yards out.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler had Bill Gunner, Ed Bird producing on the other side of the glass. That was the call on Saturday. Gerald Kilgore getting the pick six that put South Carolina up 21-10 there early on in the game that helped propel South Carolina to their 35-13 victory over Kentucky on Saturday. And kind of going back to what we talked about with the offense there a moment ago, when you go out there and do your job the way that South Carolina did against, yes, a less than stellar Kentucky team, starting a quarterback in Cutter Boley on the road for the first time in his first ever SEC start, you kind of did exactly what you were supposed to do against them. But nevertheless, you won the game the way you were supposed to win it. Defense looked good. The edges looked great. Obviously make plays like that, and as well as Gears score before that. For a couple defensive scores, put South Carolina a lot more, or they were down 10-7 before Gears' first touchdown, and then after the Kilgore touchdown was 21-10, and obviously were able to pretty much pull away from there. So great all-around performance, and good night for the defense. That again was one of the big talking points coming away from Missouri, given all their missed tackles the week before.
Yeah, well, let's start with this. Obviously, the first two drives do not go South Carolina's way. Kentucky's able to come out and really have almost zero problems, especially on the first drive, zero resistance running the football, and just runs right through South Carolina's defense. Really does it the second time, and then South Carolina starts to bow up. And as I said, I like this. I like what I'm seeing here, because my expectation for this defense coming in was a group that was going to have some growing pains, and the offense was going to have to carry them. But I loved seeing the adjustments by Clayton White. Clayton White, I think, is earning that paycheck. Look, this group has got to get better. They aren't great right now, but you've seen them. They played well against Virginia Tech. Against Missouri, yeah, they gave up yardage. They didn't tackle well against Missouri, but they bowed up in the red zone, and they gave the team a chance to win. You were winning that game. You'd held Missouri, who's pretty explosive, to just 18 points going into the fourth quarter, and then things got away from you a little bit. And on Saturday night, they made the adjustments, and kudos to Clayton White. He draws up a great stunt package, a little twist game that took place with Dylan Stewart, who comes up the middle and absolutely crushes Cutter Boley. And I think, watching Kentucky's playing with all the confidence in the world.
Sure.
And you get a redshirt freshman, you get a young quarterback on the road, first road game, environment is the way it was, and he gets hit, and it kind of startled him. And it didn't knock him out, but it kind of startled him, I think, a little bit. And when you get hit that hard, and Dylan Stewart laid some lumber on Saturday night. You get hit that hard, and then all of a sudden you got to go right back out there.
Sure.
Right? Hey, go, young man, you just got to go back out there, and they get the interception. Really cool, by the way, to see Gerald Kilgore
awesome.
Get that and run it back.
Yeah, and it's one of those things because Kentucky drives down the field, first drive, everything goes well, run the ball well, they get the touchdown, and then on the second drive, they get the field goal, so they're leading 10-7 at that point in time, and in a blink, and essentially, I think it was 3 total plays because I think there was one play before, Kilgore's pick six between that and Gears' touchdown, but you basically blink and you go from leading by 3 points to being down by 11. Now the pressure's on you, and Carolina, as you said, Clayton White did a really good job of loading the box up, saying, hey, we're going to take away your ability to run. We're going to force this redshirt freshman quarterback to beat us, and he wasn't able to do that. And again, they kept him under duress all night. I think we saw an example of, in years from now, when he gets the, hey, what was your welcome to the SEC moment? That's the game he's going to talk about. When Carolina teed off on him for 6 sacks and kept him under duress, his pressure to sack ratio was 62%. They were on him the entire night, and he probably had more than a few ice packs after the game.
And South Carolina continued to do it throughout the game. You go back again, the fake punt. We can debate whether that was a great decision, a bad decision. If they get it, does it change the course of the game? Does it put the game away? They don't obviously get it. They're yards short there. But I want to go back. The defense bows up in that situation and holds Kentucky to a field goal. So I know people are going to say, well, you can't always count on 2 turnovers for touchdowns. No, you can't, but that's part of the game. That's what happened. I mean, look, you can't count on 2 punt returns for a touchdown, but it's happened in a game and they've won. South Carolina's defense and special teams right now is winning football games for South Carolina. They get there. It's not what I anticipated. Again, I thought it would be the offense carrying them through.
Sure.
But that defense, again, I think is growing. You're seeing the young linebackers, J.O., and Fred Johnson in particular grow with every game. Yeah, they got exposed. They got exposed by Vanderbilt. The way Diego Pavia and the way Vanderbilt runs that offense, it exposed them as young guys. Missouri did the same thing. They're growing each and every game. The defensive line, it's growing every game. Monkel Goodwin is having to play significant snaps for the first time in his life, not just being a backup or hanging out on the bench. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy is a guy that I think is coming on. They got to get him healthy. It's huge for him to get healthy. I think he is developing into the 5-star guy. It's not there yet, and it might not be there by November. Then you got to hold on to him. Don't let him slip out in the transfer portal. But he's developing, and as a guy that you look toward the future, I love that with him. Brian Thomas, we were just talking about it, gets co-defensive lineman of the week. Yep. Dylan Stewart finally has good things happen to him. And, you know, there was some of the discussion, boy, he was upset. He tried to wander off the field at Missouri, and Shane had to go grab him. But Dylan Stewart, that was a confidence build. You talk about Lenoris.
It was.
All these things. And now you're also going to get Judge Collier back in 2 weeks. It's growing. I don't rule this out of a defense that can continue to grow and keep them in certain games coming down the stretch.
And you probably saw this stat pop up during the game, but Carolina, at least going into the night, and I imagine with 2 scores probably still is the case, leading the nation in non-offensive touchdowns so far this year. And again, you can't count on that, but it does show you that you can have a defense and special teams as well that steps up when they need to in moments and really completely changed the entire game on Saturday because you went from trailing by 3 to being up by 11 and just kind of managing, the gap from there. And again, for Cutter Boley, maybe a more experienced quarterback wouldn't look at it the same way, but that 11 points may have well been 100 to him, right? That's a much different task when you're going out there suddenly trailing by a couple scores as opposed to leading by 1 there. So that was a big key on Saturday, as we've seen through many games so far this year in terms of other areas of the team helping out the offense. And again, the offense still only scored 21 points, which was more than the 20 they scored last week against Missouri. So we're moving in the right direction. But
most under a Mike Shula-led offense.
Yes, most under a Mike Shula-led offense. So we're trickling in the right direction. But we're not. Here's the thing, and I go back to Parker Fleming told us this last week, the Stats of War guy from Twitter, that according to his data, you are what you are 5 games in the year. You're 5 games into the year, and the offensive numbers are still not good, no matter how they played on Saturday night. So I don't think we go into any game suddenly thinking, okay, well, this is the week where Carolina goes out there and scores 38 points on offense. It's probably not going to happen. So your defense is going to have to play well. If you can get some of those non-offensive touchdowns, it's going to help you out a lot. And you're just trying to do the best you can on offense because that's just, unfortunately, what I think this team's going to be this year. But again, Saturday night was an example of other areas of the team picking you up and helping you out to propel you to the victory that you got.
I'll say this. I do think there could be a game where the offense pops out. The receivers, when we start talking, if we flip back to the offense, the receivers coming on. Vandravius Jacobs, I on the morning show last year, loved this kid. Thought he had a chance to become really big time. Had some big catches, but because of the injuries, he would kind of make a catch and then disappear for like a week or two, then come back, make a catch or two. And you've started to see him really explode. Nick Harbor has come along, and now you can really have faith in him. You're kind of waiting. All right, is it going to be Mazeo Bennett? Is it going to be Donovan Murph? Is it going to be, one of the other guy? Who else is ready? Jared Brown. Brian Rowe.
Yep.
Who else can become that third guy? And then you got Brady Hunt and Michael Smith at the tight ends to go along. A little surprised Jordan Dingle hadn't had a little more of an impact on the offense. But the point being is that pass game, I wish they'd rely on it more. I wish they'd rather because I think it's kind of ready to break out. But I want to go back to the defense for a second. I really like where this defense is going. Some of the young talent that they have there that just needs to continue to develop. Good to hear that Travian Robertson has been at practices, not really yet ready to come back to games. Can't be on the sideline just yet, but he's been at practices. He's been with these meetings and everything. It's a developing defense, and I'm excited to see them in 2 weeks. I'm excited to see what they do. Again, I'm a believer in this defense. You look at last week against Missouri. You look at this week. They're not perfect. There are things that have got to be cleaned up, specifically tackling. But, Tyler, I like this defense coming down the stretch to make some adjustments and continue to improve each and every week.
Plenty more reactions as the show goes along. Coming up next, though, we'll get into heads or tails. What did I observe over the weekend across the sports landscape? That's coming up next as the halftime show continues here on Your Reaction Monday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunter along with you. Ed Bird producing on the other side of the glass. Under Reaction Monday, as we continue to look at South Carolina's victory over Kentucky to improve to 3-2 on the year. Now head into the bye week before they take on LSU coming up, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, which we'll find out that kick time probably here in about 10 minutes or so and let you know that when we do know something there. But as we do each and every Monday, it is time for Heads or Tails, where I give you my observations of the weekend. Heads are good, tails are bad. Start off with a great heads here. Legitimately one of the loudest moments I've ever experienced at Williams-Brice Stadium. Connor Shaw coming out of the Cockaboose before the game as the celebrity starter after, again, all he went through just over a week ago. Beamer talked about it after the game. Here's a guy that you didn't know if he was going to survive, 10 days ago, and here he is, leading the Gamecock chant before the game.
Yep, I was not there on Saturday night. These 7:45 games, I'm not really healthy enough to make these myself right just yet, but obviously saw the videos of it, and great to always have him back in the building.
Yeah, very cool there, and I believe that was his son that was there with him. So very cool, and again, by looking at him, you wouldn't have known that he was in the hospital, a week and a half ago, and again, concerned about legitimately his life at that point in time. So good to see that he's back up and healthy again. Second head is going back to Friday night. It was not a field storming. I deemed it an avalanche when Virginia upset then number 8 Florida State, because the crowd had been forming for about the better part of the fourth quarter. And they don't have any walls. They don't have any gates. They don't have any fences. They're literally just standing on a hill at the edge of the end zone. And when the final pass went incomplete in that game, they came on the field quick. I was concerned about the receiver.
Squirrel
White, former Tennessee receiver. Like, he just kind of disappeared in the sea of people.
Both of them did.
Both of them
the defensive back end and Squirrel White. That was an impressive. That was a. It wasn't a storming. I don't know what you would call that. And good for Virginia. Good for Tony Elliott. But you're right. I was up there in 2002, and South Carolina got beat. South Carolina was coming off back-to-back 9-win, 8-4, 9-3 seasons, the back-to-back bowl wins, Outback Bowl wins. And Corey Jenkins, I think, was in his second or third start. And the Gamecocks went up there, and I can't remember quite where South Carolina was ranked. It was inside the top 15. Gamecocks were a 4 or 5 point favorite. Ended up getting beat, and the Virginia fans stormed the field and kind of picked a little bit of Virginia fans. By the way, under, like, what do I want to say, like, mild obnoxious,
maybe a little bit,
because you saw what the Virginia fan, like, I hope they track that guy down. If you don't know what I'm talking about, one Virginia fan in particular took his phone out and ran in front of Thomas Castellano, the quarterback of Florida State, and flipped him off while filming it.
While filming himself doing it.
Yeah. And, like, Virginia, because
come on, man,
they had a situation when South Carolina was up there back in, again, 2002, where Corey Jenkins, like, had to defend himself and kind of throw a punch, and it was a big deal. Virginia fans are low-key, like, obnoxious.
Yeah, I have a feeling that field storming may lead to some changes being made. A wall within the ACC, something, because that was definitely one of a kind, one that definitely didn't look like all the others. Getting to tails now. We may only have time for one of these, so I'll get into the story here real quick. No cheering in the press box is the #1 rule for anybody that went to journalism school. On Saturday, late in the game, there was a representative from the Gator Bowl and friend, wife, girlfriend, whatever, some lady that was with him that cheered after one of Brian Thomas Jr.'s sacks late in the game. Again, press box is a working environment. People writing stories, doing those kind of things. Shout out to our guy, Kent Reichert, because I've never seen a guy fly down a set of steps as fast as he did to tell them, hey, you need to leave. Where's your pass? Where's your pass? You don't belong here. Get out.
Right, did they have passes?
I don't think they did.
Okay.
And look, bowl representatives come through the press box a lot. Not the first time I've ever seen them. And they took basically 2 open seats. And we're talking with each other. Couldn't really hear them, but they did loudly cheer when Brian Thomas Jr. had the sack, and that's where you cross the line.
Love it. Love it. Let's go to the Gator Bowl. Let's get to 6-6 and go to the Gator. If you got reps that want to bring you back to Jacksonville, which is a decent bowl game, or kind of it used to be more prestigious.
Sure.
But, yeah, let's go to the Gator Bowl. I can live with that. Good. I'm glad we got somebody on our side down in Jacksonville that's cheering for us.
Yeah, though after that exchange, maybe we've worked our way out of that. But for anybody that knows Kent Reichert, he runs a tight ship up there. You don't play around, and that's only the second time I've ever seen him get on to somebody. And that one was that was aggressive. That was an aggressive one.
That's what you got to be the bouncer up there.
It needed to be.
So I don't like. I've covered. I know I covered a Mississippi game. Like, had to be in the press box back. It was when South Carolina went to Oxford back in like 08, 07. South Carolina won, squeaked one out there. It's tough. It's tough when you're a fan.
Oh yeah, no, and the two people that got asked to leave looked quite shaken after that little exchange. So Kent got his point across.
Free food will do that to you.
Free food will do that to you. So, yeah, we may not be going to the Gator Bowl because of that one. But shout out to Kent Reichert for always upholding a tight ship up there in the press box. We'll get to some of your thoughts on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, the Firehouse Subs text line. Start hour number 2 as Reaction Monday rolls along. It is the halftime show here on the game. It's all right here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, the first wine and spirits store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. Locally family owned and operated and located on Green Street right behind the Salty Nut Cafe. So it is impossible to miss over there in 5 Points. They got everything that you need, whether you're getting set for a fun Saturday night, tailgating, hanging out with friends, or just hanging around the house. They've got everything you could want and so much more. If you want G4 tequila, yes, they do indeed have that. They also have the Garden Black vodka as well, which 25% of that goes to the Garnet Trust, which benefits South Carolina athletics. And hey, if you're a business down there in 5 Points and need some last-minute drinks for your inventory, they have Class B license so they can sell to bars as well. Stay connected with them on Instagram and Facebook, or visit their website at tillyswarehouse.com for more information and discover why Tilly's is your new must-visit spot over in 5 Points. All right, welcome back in hour number 2. It is the halftime show. Tyrod and Bill Gunner along with you here as we look back on South Carolina's 35-13 win over Kentucky on Saturday night as they move to 3-2 on the season. And we do have an update now as we look ahead to the next game, which will be against LSU coming up next Saturday down in Baton Rouge. It will, unfortunately, be another night kick. Now, this is still in a spot where we don't know the exact kick time, but per the SEC, it'll either kick at 7, 7:30, or 7:45. It'll either be on ESPN, ABC, or the SEC network. So regardless of what kick time that is, it is going to unfortunately be a night game in Baton Rouge coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's look real quick here. Okay, so the 3 options, the 3 night games will be Florida and A&M.
Yep.
I'm not sure why you would have that at night. Georgia, Auburn. Okay.
Yep.
Little surprised. Let's see here. Just glancing, Alabama, Missouri will be the noon game on the 11th. So that's the noon game. Washington State and Mississippi. Okay. Didn't see that one coming. That's a 12:45 game on SEC Network. Red River Rivalry, Oklahoma, Texas, 3:30 ABC.
I think that's a permanent 3:30 now, going forward.
Yeah, they like that at 3:30. I think the folks there also like it because it's not a nooner anymore on ABC. Well, it is on ABC, but back when it was a Big 12 game. And then Arkansas and Tennessee taking place there. That'll be the SEC 4:15 game. So, yep, okay. So I'm just glancing, and my general thought is going to be South Carolina likely will be the second game picked, I feel like, here. So what's going to be the second option? Probably what do you think, ESPN2? Is that?
Yeah, I'd probably go.
ABC, no, ABC, ESPN. I'm going to go ESPN, whatever the ESPN game is.
Yeah,
7 o'clock.
I think Georgia Auburn's your ABC 7:30 game.
Yep.
I'd probably go Carolina LSU 7 o'clock on ESPN, and Gators and Aggies. That's very much 7:45 SEC Network.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel that. So all right. So tentatively, but if you're going to Baton Rouge, if you're going down there, I've been down there for a night game. It is number one. If you're going to go to an LSU game, it needs to be a night game.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Just prefer your team not be playing.
Yes.
You prefer, because we went in 2002, and I don't know if that was Saban's first year or second year. South Carolina got out.
That was second year.
South Carolina got out to a lead, and James Atkinson dropped a pass around the goal line that would have set South Carolina up to go up 21-3. And then in the second half, LSU got going, and that place turned into a zoo. And it was scary and a lot of fun to be in, but less fun when it was your team getting their doors blown off.
Yeah, so they're going to have the work cut out for them for a night game against an LSU team that hasn't been playing their best football right now, but we'll see how they look coming up in about 12 days. We'll get your reactions to Carolina's win over Kentucky now. Heading out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, and Ray wants to weigh in. Ray, appreciate the call as always. What's on your mind?
Hey, well, I'm going to talk about my Gamecocks, but Bill brought up that 2002 Virginia game. The funny thing about that game, guys, well, we went to Virginia, and we just played a terrible game. And things were so bad. I mean, we couldn't stop them for nothing. Lou Holtz actually got Charlie Strong in a headlock. I mean, he was so upset he actually got Charlie Strong in a headlock. I mean, it was unbelievable. But anyway, just calling about the Gamecocks, it's like the defense. You know, those first 2 drives, guys, we were just – I mean, we're all like, oh, here we go again. And you could even see Shane Beamer after that long pass to that tight end. He had his arms crossed. He's walking to the side like, here we go again. But it was like the defense decided, and I'll give Clayton White credit, they decided, you know, what we've been doing the last 10 quarters is just not working. So we got to change something here. And I think they got more aggressive, and they actually played edge containment. And, I mean, they just locked them down from that point on. And, unfortunately, they got to jump over to the offense. I think what Sellers was doing, I don't think nothing came from the sideline. I think he just made his mind up. You know, I'm going back to what I do good. You know, if there's not a pocket there, I'm not stepping up into it. I'm going to reverse field and, you know, and use my legs. That's what I've done all my life. So I don't think that was anything that Shula told him. And what really kind of bothers me, I know you were talking like fool's gold earlier, Bill, which you're right to some degree. But what really bothers me is the fact, I mean, here we are. We're up 28-10. We get the ball. And you're thinking, okay, the defense has got it going on. The offense is just a matter of time. We're going to start clicking. So what do we run? Pin and off of the middle. So the crowd's kind of, but they don't really say anything. We lose 2 yards. 2nd and 12, Bill. What do? Run the ball up the middle. And by that time, I mean, everybody, even the preachers came unglued, you know. I mean, it was like, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, you know, it was a win, but Shula and them have got to figure out how to call these plays on 1st and 2nd down, or we'll never have a passing game. And we got 2 great receivers now that could just be unreal. But Shula's got to get it going. And that's about all I got to say, guys. Thanks for letting me talk.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate it, Ray. Again, 803-404-6100. And, again, to highlight the main point, you won the game, which is the most important thing at the end of the day, and you have confidence going into the bye week.
So I had to, in the game, in the moment, I'm not at the stadium. Right. I'm not at the stadium. I'm watching on television. In the moment, though, I couldn't help but laugh. It's 10-7. South Carolina gets the interception. It's the fumble, then the interception. Kentucky comes out and ends up getting the ball all the way up at the 46. All right? So Kentucky's got the ball, and you're thinking, all right, now they're going to settle in. They're going to try and run it. Seth McGowan runs for a yard. Then he runs for 6. And then Cutter Boley is basically sacked. It goes down as a no gain and a run. So it's now 4th and 3, and South Carolina's able to get to him, cause some pressure, and they get a turnover and downs, and the ball's at the 47. Mm-hmm. So I'm playing this game in my head because, and just because you're a Georgia fan, or just because you grew up with Georgia, you know Steve Spurrier. Your defense has now been out there really for about the last, I don't know in real time, but they haven't gotten a break.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like they've gotten they've gotten the fumble, they've gotten the interception, and now they've been back on the field. But I'm thinking it's 21-10. This is where you take your shot, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Like it's at midfield. The ball is at midfield. This is where you go play action and you take your shot. But if you score on one play, your defense has got to go right back out there.
Right.
But you're up 28-10. So I was kind of laughing in that moment because I was like, poor Mike Shula here. You really should take a shot. This is you're right, the play action, going back to what Ray said. This is where you take your shot. But, of course, that's not what South Carolina did. And I was like, do you take the shot? Do you take your chance? And he's right. What he's right is on that play, Oscar Attaway, on the next play, was 21-10. Oscar Attaway had a run for 2 yards. But I really felt like that's where South Carolina had to step on the throat of Kentucky. And I give credit to Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops played the long game on this because when South Carolina went for the fake punt, it's 21-10. No, it was
28-10 at that point.
It was 28-10. And he settles for the defense bows up, and he settles for the field goal. And I know what he was thinking, and I like the move on his part. He's thinking they can't move the ball. It was still in the third quarter. He's thinking we're going to get 2 more cracks at this thing. We can get the ball back and tie it up. Yeah. He knew that his defense was starting to slow down Mike Shula in the offense, and that's a concerning thing for me a little bit.
Yeah, which, by the way, I was not on board with the fake punt at that point in time. 4th and 12, and I know you only missed it by about half a yard because Mo Brown almost got there, but how well your defense was playing, considering the fact it was a 3-score game at that point in time, I just feel like that wasn't the right time to pull the trigger on that. That's me personally. Maybe you disagree with that, but that was one of my negatives of the game. Is like I wouldn't have gone for that.
If it works, let's just say it works, and South Carolina goes down and scores a touchdown, we chalk that up to more Beamer ball.
Sure.
And we're like, what a call. What a, look at old Shane pulling stuff. He and Joe D pulling stuff out of the bag of tricks, and they weren't ready for it. It didn't work. And so now we question it. It's kind of honestly like the play at Missouri at the 2-yard line where, if you run it and you run in the end zone, everybody says, well, that's what you should have done. They ran play action last week. It didn't work, and we all go, what are you doing? So I was okay with the fake punt. You had the lead, and quite frankly, you're trying to put them away. Mm-hmm. Like you're trying to put Kentucky away because we had all seen Kentucky effectively rush the ball to open the game.
Yep.
And in this moment, in that time, maybe the only person who was certain that he had Kentucky on locks was Clayton White. I don't know if anybody in the stands necessarily felt that way. So you get that fake punt. Number one, you flip field position a little bit. You're up at that point. 3 scores. I felt like it was an okay time to do it. And like I said, if they get it.
Oh, of course.
If they get it, then we just say like, oh man, like creative, and you're doing what you got to do to win. They don't get it, so now we get to second guess it. But I'm okay. I was perfectly okay with it.
So Carolina picks up the win. It's another win in a row now against Kentucky. Ed, can you get cut number 26 for me here? How did Shane Beamer and the team celebrate in the locker room? Beamer was asked about that after the game.
One, no sunglasses right now.
No sunglasses, but we were playing Soldier Boy in the locker room. So
I have a theory. I think Shane Beamer might enjoy beating Mark Stoops more than any other coach on the schedule, at least in terms of like opponents you see regularly. Like, yeah, he may enjoy beating Brett Bielema if he gets the opportunity, but as far as like regular opponents, and now you're going to see Kentucky every single year still going forward, I think Stoops is the top of the list.
No, I agree with you. Look, I think Kentucky had that game circled, and I'll go back. I want to say I'm a little surprised. It makes it sound bad, but I'm a little surprised that's where Kentucky football is. That's a significant drop off, and for what they were, this was a program that wasn't going to go win an SEC or obviously compete for a national championship, but for the better part of 2012 to 2020. They were a good competitive football team, and obviously we saw that. They won, 7 out of 8 against South Carolina, and the Gamecocks have completely turned this around. But there's certainly, and you go back, I was pulling for South Carolina to go down and punch one in at the very end and have it 42-13.
Yeah.
Go down and finish off Kentucky and make it look a little bit better. But the bottom line on this was, I do think there is, and we saw it, I wasn't there at the game, but there was a chippiness about this game. And there was some of it was South Carolina letting off some frustration. Some of it was, I think, that these two teams genuinely don't like each other, and that it is conveyed to their teams, hey, they're our peer opponent.
Yeah.
These guys are guys we simply can't lose to. I think during the game they put up a stat about when whomever wins the game gets bowl eligible, something like almost
over
70%.
half the time.
Yeah, it was over close to 70% of the time. The team that doesn't win the game is more in the 40s. So I'm excited about this thing. I'm excited that they're coming back to Columbia next year. I think Potato Stoops is going to have his troops ready. Cutter Boley should be back as his quarterback, and it'll be another fun one next year. Yep. And the other thing about this game, you can always pretty much count on it being a night game. I think last year being a day game was the one time in like 14 years that it's been a day game.
Well, because South Carolina versus Kentucky screams 7:45 on the SEC Network.
SEC Network, yes.
That is the most quintessential 7:45 game you can think of, probably.
You're exactly right on that.
And especially going back the past couple of years with the sunglasses thing and all that kind of stuff, it just seems like this rivalry's got a different layer to it. And you did see some chippiness. Trevon Ball took his guy almost into the locker room on one of Faison's rushing touchdowns on Saturday. He was fortunate to not get called there because it was the other guy that pulled his helmet off that ended up being called for the for the penalty there. But a lot of chippiness. There's no love lost between these two teams. And again, Beamer and Stoops will chat it up before the game. But I imagine they both walk away like, I can't stand that guy.
Yeah. They walk over. They instantly go to an assistant or somebody and
start dogging them.
Yeah, that's I can see them.
A lot of things happen around the country in college football, which we'll get to coming up next, including the high-profile games that ended up being entertaining four-quarter battles. That's coming up next as the halftime show continues here on your Reaction Monday on the Game. It's our Ed once again here telling you about our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, the first wine and spirits store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. And I've been telling you about them for a while now, but I really need to emphasize how big of a selection that they have. I was in there not too long ago, and quite literally, from wall to wall, floor to ceiling, they've got everything you can imagine and so much more in terms of what you're looking for with your beverages. They've got the stuff on the shelves and cases. They've got ready-to-drink stuff by the door. Just about anything you can imagine for your party, your Saturday night, your cookout with your friends and family, or a tailgate, they've got you covered. They're right behind the Salty Nut Cafe over there on Green Street. Very easy to get in and out of. And, of course, in the old Pavlov's building over there. And, of course, they have everything you need to make your beverage experience as good as possible. Mention you heard this ad on 107.5 The Game and get yourself 10% off any wine selections over at Tilly's Wine and Spirits, the Tilly's Warehouse, the first wine and spirits store in 5 Points, past 20 years.
I mean, what's everybody else's record against them? You got it? I don't either. Like I don't lose sleep over that because those games have been like championship caliber games, right? And even when we play in the regular season, they've been. I just saw 25 scouts out there. They're all there to watch these teams play. So that's not going to affect me. Like I'm going to be happy and just go lucky if our team comes back and plays well. That's what I worry about. But that's just, we got to get better. And next year, it won't have anything to do with this year. Thank you, guys.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner along with you. In Reaction Monday, that was the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, Kirby Smart, talking about his now 1-7 record against the Alabama Crimson Tide as they once again fall short 24-21 in Athens on Saturday night as the Bulldogs suffer their first loss of the season. And Kirby says it's not something that keeps him up at night, but at some point, a thing becomes a thing. And for a while, we thought it was just because Saban. Now it becomes very clear, like, no, this is just an Alabama problem that for whatever reason, Kirby Smart, outside of that one game where they won the national championship, has not been able to get over.
33-game home win streak, too, snapped on Saturday. Look, number one, Kirby's full of bleep when he says that. Kirby's a competitor. Don't tell me, well, we had 25 scouts here, and I just want to – you want to win the game. Yeah. And you hurt. He hurt. He hurt. He went home and cried. Kirby went home and cried. He curled up in a ball, and he cried. First he cried on his couch, and then he went and cried in his bed. It's fine because he's a competitor.
Sure. Listen. Kirby Smart's the kind of coach that I'm sure wakes up in a cold sweat about a third down they didn't convert against Kentucky 5 years ago. So I don't believe that this Alabama losing streak is something that doesn't bother him.
Yeah, don't lie. Don't lie. Don't say that, no, I don't. He's a competitor, and it's fine to say, listen, I want to beat those guys. But, and Saturday was a great day of college football. That game wasn't about Georgia.
No.
That was about Bama. And Ty Simpson.
Alabama looking like they returned to form.
Yeah, that was the part. Because, look, I do a pick-em now with thebigspur.com, and I had Georgia winning. I had Georgia kind of winning that one convincingly because at home, at night, not that I thought Gunnar Stockton was a better quarterback, but I thought that Kirby would be prepared for Ty Simpson. They weren't. And give credit. That's twice in 2 years back to back where Kalen DeBoer's come out and jumped all over Georgia and gone up on top early. Big, by the way.
Well, everything, and we do the picks on Gamecock Central. Jack Felcher was the only one that picked Alabama because everything told you this should have been advantage Georgia. They're playing the game at home, and this is the first time they played Alabama at home in 10 years, so you have that advantage. Kalen DeBoer, notoriously very bad on the road, right?
True. Yeah.
The last time we saw Alabama play a quality opponent, they looked awful. Effort-wise, skill-wise, against Florida State. They got run out of the building down in Tallahassee, and they played nobody of note since. So it's like, okay, well, how good is this team really after how they did it in week number 1? And they look like the better team. They look like the more physical team, look like they wanted it more. Like they just came in there and dominated against Georgia for the better part of 4 quarters. Now, Georgia had their opportunity, and this is the big point coming away from this game. Down at the Alabama 8 with about 13 minutes left, 4th and 1. And they go for it. Instead of kicking a field goal down 3 points, when Alabama had not scored in the second half, Georgia only got the ball one more time after that. And by the way, they ran a run play out of the shotgun, which always bothers me. I will never support that kind of thing. And obviously they turned over on downs, only got the ball back one more time. And I mean, talk about a missed opportunity to at least tie the game where points were at a premium. I still don't get that one.
So 2 parts to that. Let's start with just the fact that I had no problem with it. You're Georgia. If you're Kirby Smart, we're Georgia. We're at home. You look at your offensive line. You go, we're going, and your tight ends. You go, we're going to get this yard. You're going to do what you got to do. This is why we're Georgia. This is why whatever they were, number 5, I think, in the country. And you say, this is who we are. This is what our culture is about. We get the yard. We're big. We're bad. We're going to bully even Alabama. Didn't get it.
Right.
Okay. So I had no problem with it. 2, and I do wonder this because in the moment I thought about it. If their season comes to a screeching halt with a loss, as it would have, 4 years ago?
Sure.
5 years ago, even before that. If their season comes to a screeching halt, as it used to do when you lost a game, does he kick the field goal? The fact that this is now just a great game that, quite frankly, has little bearing on their college football playoff hopes. I mean, they can run it out. They've got a margin fair. They can lose another game and they'll probably get in. But with that being said, if you lose this game back 15 years ago,
could have been the end of the year.
That's it.
Could have been it.
You're playing for the Citrus Bowl,
sure,
or the Gator Bowl. But now things have evolved, so I was okay with it. I'm perfectly okay with what they decided to do.
I see your point on that because again, if Georgia runs the table and finishes the regular season 11-1, they're playing Atlanta. Maybe they're playing Alabama again.
10-2. 10-2.
10-2, and at that point, you're in the playoff. You know, you're a lower seed than what you could have been. But yeah, you maybe have a little bit more house money to play with. That's a fair point. And hindsight being 2020, because kind of like, South Carolina's fake field goal. If you make it and score a touchdown, you go up 28-24 and you win the game. Greatest call ever. Oh my God, I can't believe he had the stones to pull that off at that point in the game, being down by 3 points. But hindsight being 2020, it's something that, and I don't know if he would admit it or not, but maybe something you think about differently if you had to go back and do it again. But regardless, it happened. Alabama pulls off the victory. You want to hear a crazy stat? So Kalen DeBoer, this is his 4th year coaching at the Power 4 level, 2 years at Washington, and now in his 2nd year at Alabama. He has played Dan Lanning 3 times, Kirby Smart twice, and Steve Sarkisian once. 6-0 in those games.
He knows how to defeat a Nick Saban team, is what you're telling me.
He knows how to defeat a Nick Saban assistant. And 3 of the coaches that you would deem to be probably in the top 5 of head coaches in college football right now. Meanwhile, he's lost to Clark Lee. He's lost to Brent Venables. He's lost to Sharon Moore in the bowl game last year. And they lost to Arizona State in 2022 to the interim that replaced Herm Edwards after he got fired.
Oh.
So he's managed to beat the elite of the elite in college football coaching, and he's lost to some guys you're like, really? Lost to that guy? And now they get set to take on an undefeated Vanderbilt this week.
And Clark Lee.
Yeah. Looking for 2 in a row.
Game day there, by the way.
In Tuscaloosa. Crazy stuff.
Good game. Very good game.
Great game.
That game, South Carolina's game, and you had Penn State, Oregon taking place at the same time. It was a very good night session of games.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And again, I hated those games were happening simultaneously to Carolina playing Kentucky because I would have loved to have just sat and focused on those 2 games, but still, fun games regardless. And again, now we're getting into where we're getting fun games every single weekend and 2 high-profile ones where, again, we could theoretically see these teams match up with each other again later on in the year in a conference championship in a playoff scenario at some point.
So the question will be, is Bama back? Is Bama back? And does anybody mind, by the way, the fact that Bama is now, 8 spots, I believe, 7 or 8. Alabama's, I believe, at 10. Florida State's at 18. Do we mind that Alabama is ahead of Florida State? But is Bama back, or are we going to fall for this again where, they beat Georgia, which apparently they can do, and apparently Kirby, as you said, apparently Kirby can't beat Bama, and apparently Kalen DeBoer can beat Kirby, or was that a flash in the pan?
Alabama being back to me would be going out there and beating Vanderbilt by like 3 touchdowns this weekend.
Okay. All right.
Like if you impose your will on Vanderbilt, which again we think is a pretty good team this year, that to me is like, okay, all right, Alabama's back. If you go out there and lose again, then it's like I don't know what to think of this team. Especially at home, right? Which you'd go from in a span of 7 days, like, oh man, Kalen DeBoer's got him back on the right track to, all right, get out pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
Let's run this guy out of town.
No,
because that's how it works in Tuscaloosa.
That's what I'm with you. That's going to be a really fun one. I'm looking forward to that on the bye week. Might be my most anticipated game of the year. You would think it'd be Florida, Texas, but nope. It's going to be Alabama, Vanderbilt. Welcome to the world we live in.
We maybe thought Florida State and Miami, but a little bit of a ding on that one too.
Yeah, a little disappointed in Florida State there on letting us down on that.
With some of the other big games from the weekend coming up next as we'll continue on with the Halftime Show and your Reaction Monday here on the game.
this is a huge growth moment for our entire team, right? Because, that crowd's probably worth 7 points, right? And they really weren't tonight. Like, I didn't feel that. The only time we beat ourselves is when we beat ourselves, right? The only time that we really struggle is when we beat ourselves. And it was going to be a battle. We had to figure out what worked, but they handled this environment, and it ended up being not a factor for our team, even though that's why you play college football. That environment was unbelievable.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Ed Burke producing on the other side of the glass. That, of course, was the voice of Dan Lanning, head coach of the Oregon Ducks, after their 30-28 victory in overtime up there in Happy Valley amidst a whiteout, which, by the way, it appears that Penn State's visiting coach post-game situation is much like Clemson, where I think he's just under the bleachers there because you can hear all the stuff happening around him. He's not like in a room or anything like that. But nevertheless, as he said, they ended up going in there in a tough environment, making the coast-to-coast trip, and picking up the victory as Oregon stays undefeated on the air. And old James Franklin, big game James, once again comes up short. Now 4-21 against top 10 opponents at Penn State.
They ran the risk of getting blown out of their own stadium during the whiteout, too. This game evolved quickly, and then Penn State was able to come back, and it turned into an incredible game coming down the stretch. But look, I like Oregon. I think. And by the way, that was where was that clip? Was that from under the state? That was not the post game clip where now everybody who has thought Dan Lanning is on cocaine. Have you seen this?
I've seen that where whoever the NBC sideline reporter was, and he's jazzed up to say the least.
He was running around. I think him and Tosh Lapoy, I believe, is his one of his assistants. They were chest butting each other and hugging.
He's an intense guy.
Look, what he's doing at Oregon, I'm really interested to see how far he can truly take them. Can he turn them into, an Alabama-esque, a Georgia-esque type? I don't know if dynasty with Georgia is the right word, but can he turn them into that, or are they just a team that kind of catches your attention every year and it's kind of a cute story?
Well, I look at this because, look, he didn't take over a terrible thing, right? No. Mario Cristobal split to Miami, where Oregon was still in pretty good shape. So he took over a pretty good operation. But I look, and they've taken steps forward every single year. They didn't make the conference championship in 2022. They play forward in 2023, come up just short of missing the playoff there. They make the playoff last year as the number one overall seed. That kind of gets lost with what Ohio State did. They were undefeated, 13-0, and they were the number one seed prior to getting their doors blown off in the Rose Bowl there. And the next step this year would be obviously to go deeper into a semifinal or something along those lines. But it very much looks like the Big Ten may once again run through Eugene, Oregon. Dante Moore looked very good in what was his first game against real competition on Saturday night. So they seem to have the pieces, that obviously have the resources to continue to be successful. And again, Dan Lanning comes from that Nick Saban coaching tree, like so many of other guys that are at the top of college football right now. And it looks like that's going to continue to be a program that's going to be hard to beat. And once again, James Franklin is having trouble figuring out how to beat these guys.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to feel bad for James Franklin. But real quick, back to Oregon. You look at it, they're going to get the bye week.
Yep.
And then it's kind of smooth sail. Well, they get Indiana, which will be a lot of fun. Indiana, that game will be in Eugene on the 11th. So you talk about the 11th. We've got South Carolina and LSU. You got a bunch of good games that day, and you're going to have a top 10 showdown with Indiana and Oregon. But after that, Oregon cruises, right?
Yep.
Rutgers, Wisconsin, at Iowa. Keep an eye on that one. Just at Iowa, at that stadium is never an easy thing. Minnesota on a Friday night, but that game's in Eugene. Southern Cal. I don't know if we're afraid of Southern Cal after what I saw this weekend.
Yeah.
They're not awful. And then at Washington. So my point is keep an eye on Oregon for next week, not this coming weekend, then put them on the back burner. Now you flip what you just said is you go to Penn State and James Franklin. Where do they go from here? There was so much of those great game day setup. You got the boys to men crew out there hanging out doing college game day in terms of all the guys there, Reese and Kirk and all them dressed in all white, Pat McAfee. But now Penn State, they've got to pick themselves up. They've still got a game with Ohio State. They've still got a game with Indiana to go. They do get some breaks coming up with UCLA and Northwestern, so they'll kind of disappear from our radar here for about 2 weeks.
I will say, and Ed, if we can get the cut right here, cut number 32, James Franklin, he didn't shy away from it, as you know, he's very well aware of the narrative surrounding him when it comes to top 10 opponents.
Again, I kind of look at the entire picture. I get that narrative, and it's really not a narrative. It's factual. It's the facts. I get it, but I try to look at the entire picture and what we've been able to do here. But at the end of the day, we got to find a way to win those games. I totally get it, and I take ownership and I take responsibility. At the end of the day, I wanted that for those kids in that locker room. I wanted that for those kids in that locker room, how hard they work, how much they sacrifice, and we had our opportunities. But, yeah, I take responsibility.
And credit where it's due, because this was a 17-3 game at the end of the third quarter, and Penn State had barely over 100 yards of offense at that point in time. They did enough to get themselves back in the game, tied up at 17, force overtime. Both teams traded touchdowns in the first overtime, and then Drew Aller throws the interception on Penn State's possession in second overtime to end the game there. But Penn State was good enough to get themselves back in this game. And once again, they're good enough to compete with these kind of teams. It's closing the deal that's the problem. And Saturday night, once again, further raised the concern level, I think, for Penn State fans on just how good Drew Aller is. Remember, we talked about it a few weeks ago. There was people, hey, did we hang on to the wrong guys? Bro Prabula may be better than Drew Aller. And there was a thought that maybe Drew Aller had been holding things back. The offense had been holding things back. Andy Kolenicki, the offensive coordinator, hadn't unleashed the full playbook because they didn't want to give anything ahead of the Oregon game. Well, I didn't see anything different. It looked like Drew Aller struggled. The offense couldn't get anything going. Like, this may just be who Penn State is this year.
Drew Aller just, I don't know how to phrase, he's just not dynamic. Just doesn't. He's there. He guides the team. Yeah. Reminds me kind of an A.J. McCarron.
Sure.
Kind of there.
It's a game manager type of quarterback.
But you need some dynamic playmakers around you. You need a stifling defense, kind of like McCarron had. They really I'm trying to remember which running backs was rolling along right behind. But Katron Allen is a really good one. Nick Singleton the other night got shut down. He had double-digit carries, but only about 20 yards. But I want to go back on the flip side of it. Then you got Dante Moore, and he's going to be the next big thing, I think, in college football. I think that's the guy. And for a Heisman race that's still wide open.
Sure.
Absolutely wide open. Keep an eye on Dante Moore. The problem for him, I think, is I just mentioned you get the Indiana game in 2 weeks, and then they kind of go off the radar with, games like Rutgers, Wisconsin, some of the games like that.
Yeah, and for Dante Moore, because he was at UCLA before this, and he was okay at UCLA. It wasn't like blowing you out of the water necessarily, but I think it shows you how much better you can be when you have talent around you, which he now has at Oregon, and obviously played well on Saturday night. So, yeah, again, the Ducks look like they are well-positioned to maybe run the Big Ten once again this year. And, again, no Ohio State or anything like that, on their schedule, so that certainly works out for them. Indiana's going to be tricky. We'll see when that game gets here. But, by the way, what a weird end to the Indiana-Iowa game with Fernando Mendoza taking a safety and what he apologized to the bettors that had Indiana. I think the line was +6 or -6 maybe.
It must have moved. That's
just a weird backdoor cover.
I'll just say this. I knew it was 9. It was 9 for a while, so I don't know. Maybe I wasn't
may come down right before the game.
Yeah. It was around the 9-ish number though.
Weird way to because you could have fumbled. I mean, Iowa could have theoretically gotten a touchdown there.
A lot could have happened.
So, I mean, I would have just thrown it away if I were him. But either way, they still won the game, and Indiana's undefeated. And again, some matchups coming up here with Penn State very, very soon. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour, talk about everything that's been happening in the world of sports, including the Ryder Cup and the end of the Major League Baseball regular season as we get set for postseason play starting tomorrow as the halftime show rolls on your Reaction Monday here on the game. All right, welcome back in. Halftime show. It's out Ed Bill Gunner, Ed Bird on your Reaction Monday here on The Game. Obviously, a lot of great college football from this past weekend. Just a busy sports weekend in general as we get set for what I think is the best sports month of the entire year, the month of October, because you obviously have football in full swing, going to have Major League Baseball postseason going on. What the NBA jumps in right at the very end of the month of October, I guess, bleeding over into November. So things about to get really busy on the sports calendar, but this past weekend, very loaded from a sports perspective. Major League Baseball did wrap up its regular season. The Mets have meted once again. They went from being the best team in baseball, I believe, right at about the midpoint of June, collapsed down the stretch. All they had to do was beat the Marlins. They beat the hapless Marlins. They get themselves in the postseason, and they couldn't even do that yesterday.
Yeah, did it get to them? Mental breakdown?
Maybe so.
Is that what it was? Was it a mental breakdown for the Mets? Did they too much mental pressure?
I don't know.
Got to get a sports psychologist now out in New York.
I don't know. They've had injuries and all that kind of stuff, but man, and this isn't the first time they've done this. It's been a couple times over the years where they look like they're destined to win the East or make those postseason. They just can't get it done. I know they had a deep run last year, which good for them, but they're still meting more often than not.
Yeah.
Which again, from a Braves fan, I enjoyed that.
New York. Now you got me just real quick going through the Rolodex of New York sports teams. The Knicks kind of came a little unglued there in the playoffs. Let's see, the Knicks, the Giants. How about the Giants yesterday?
I know. It's a new era.
Jets. Don't want to discuss the Jets. They're on TV tonight, and that's a punishment for all of us. Then obviously got the Yankees. Yankees are fine.
Sure.
They'll go with the Red Sox. So tough time for a lot of, I think where I'm going with this is tough time for a lot of New York sports fans right now.
Maybe so, and if you were a New York sports fan in attendance at Bethpage Black this weekend cheering on the Americans, unfortunately, that one didn't exactly go the way you wanted it to either.
No, it didn't. And again, to me, if we're gonna we got to learn to take this serious. They got to make fundamental changes to how we do the whole giddy up around the Ryder Cup. There was things I didn't realize about what the Europeans do. They take it extremely serious, and they've got a structure that makes them serious. I don't think we are. I think we're more individualistic over here with golf, whereas they're more. They get team oriented for stuff like that. That means something to them.
Sure.
Our guys are over here. We're talking about $500,000. You donate some to charity, some to keeping, whatever may or may not have happened, and look, they just flat out went out and whipped us. But they took it very serious those first 2 days, first 4 sessions. And then yesterday, that was fun to watch. I mean, it kept me glued. Fine. And I'll say this, and I might be in the minority on this, because I really kind of don't have a massive, let's go America. Mm-hmm. Go USA.
Sure.
But I like Shane Lowry. And for him to hit that putt, he just seems like a genuinely good dude who you'd want to have a beverage with and hang out and talk, and he's going to sit there and joke.
And I think the excitement he showed when he sealed things up for the Europeans, I think epitomizes how much this does mean to them and how much they put into it and all that kind of stuff. So again, you wanted to see America win, obviously, but tip of the hat to Europe for the way they played this weekend. And America did make it interesting yesterday.
Yep.
You had a couple of you had DeChambeau.
DeChambeau was fun to watch.
Schauffele,
he makes
kind of made it interesting by closing the gap a little bit.
DeChambeau and Justin Thomas were great theater. That was great television. Both hitting the putts, Justin Thomas and Cameron Young hitting the putts on 18. Cameron Young from New York up in that area. That was phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, so again, America comes up short there in the Ryder Cup. Fun day of NFL football yesterday. You had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers almost complete another comeback after the Eagles had, 200 yards of offense, I think, in total yesterday. Managed to win the game 31-23. Had a block punt return for a touchdown. Got some key turnovers. They continue. It's not the prettiest football.
No.
You may fall asleep watching the Eagles play, but they find ways to win, and that's the most important thing.
0 of 8 passing in the second half, 0 pass yards.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's your defending Super Bowl champions right there. But that fun day, and then the Ravens, just we chalking them up to put them on the garbage heap now, and they got to make some restructuring.
That defense isn't winning anything this year. We'll see what the Lamar hamstring tweak becomes of that. But yeah, if you have a defense like that, I'm sorry, you're not doing a whole lot this year.
Is it 7 starters or 7 defensive players?
They had a lot go down yesterday.
Yeah, they're out. They've got some issues, and we'll see if they're able to bounce back. I think they're 1-3 tied with Cleveland in that division.
Yeah. Speaking of football, the NFL also learned Bad Bunny will be doing the Super Bowl halftime show this year. Which again, I feel like I heard that rumor a couple weeks ago, but was confirmed last night on Sunday Night Football during the halftime show. But yeah, but Bad Bunny, where's that on your interest list?
He's on my Amazon. I know who he is. And, and he's
the most streamed artist on earth. He's a big deal.
Yeah, he just finished up a residence. He's from Puerto Rico. He just finished up a huge residence there. Was just in Happy Gilmore 2 for some of you who are trying to figure out. I'm all for it, man. I could care. I honestly, truthfully don't know, but it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like normally, I mean, and you made a great point. You said your wife.
My wife is very excited.
Okay.
She does not care about football that much.
And you made a point off here. You were like, hey, they're doing this to draw the people who aren't into the game to stick around for halftime. They've accomplished that. Now, there's going to be a lot of people. I'm 43. There's going to be a lot of people older than me who are going to be, I'm not going to watch that. Well, it's not geared toward you.
It's not.
It's not what they're looking for.
Those 20 minutes between the second and third quarter are not for football fans.
No,
that is for the other people.
No, they're not. And not on top of that, for every one person who's like, I'm not watching that, you get 3 who can't spell touchdown who are going to be like, yeah, I'm watching that, or have no clue how many points you get for a touchdown, and they're like, yeah, I'm tuning in now strictly for that.
The NFL does not print money the way that it does by being stupid. They know exactly what they're doing with the talent that they bring in for things like the Super Bowl halftime show. And again, I imagine the Super Bowl is once again going to break gazillions of viewership records with the most streamed artist on earth now doing the halftime show.
I didn't realize he was the most streamed artist on earth. But yeah, I've got him on my Amazon playlist, so I'll recognize a couple songs and okay, whatever, cool.
We'll get back into the South Carolina and Kentucky discussion coming up next. Also, Jamie Bradford joining us in the 2 o'clock hour as well as your Reaction Monday rolls along here on the halftime show on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Ed Bird along with you here on your Reaction Monday, breaking down South Carolina's victory over the Kentucky Wildcats, 35-13, Saturday night over at Williams-Brice Stadium. We haven't really gotten into anything that Coach Beamer had to say after the game on Saturday, but we'll do some of that now. Let's get cut number 8 here, Ed Bird. This is Coach Beamer talking about the way that his team went out and responded on Saturday night against the Wildcats.
Our guys and the way they played, we knew it was going to be a physical football game, and to sit here and having beat Kentucky now 4 straight years is something that I and our entire program take a lot of pride in because of the respect we have for those guys, and that's no small accomplishment to beat that team 4 years in a row. Just so proud of our team, the way they responded this week with the negativity out there, and they just went right back to work. There's perception and there's reality, and we knew where we were as a team and knew we hadn't come close to playing our best and that we needed to be better tonight in all 3 phases, and that's what we did. But our players responded throughout the week. Preparing for this game, we knew the importance of it. I mean, I'm not an idiot. We knew this was a pretty important game, and our guys responded the right way. Our guys responded tonight to adversity. I mean, give Kentucky credit. They got a redshirt freshman quarterback, and they win the toss. They take the ball, and they run it right down our throats on the first drive and out-physicaled us in that drive, and that was disappointing to see. But then every time adversity happened tonight, we responded, and that's a testament to the culture in our program. They had the opening drive. I think we went right back down the field and scored right after that. We didn't get the fake punt, and then the defense went out there and held them to 3, and then they cut it to a 2-score game, and then we went right back down the field and responded. And then the last drive, I mean, you want to talk about finishing, holy smokes. Like, we didn't finish last week in Missouri, but I'm not sure what time. The players told me we got the ball back with 9 minutes on the clock and just pounded the ball down the field. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's what they told me, that it was a 9-minute drive. But whatever it was really freaking good to not have to give the ball back to them anymore after that.
And, last week we were rightfully very critical after what we had seen against both Missouri and Vanderbilt in the past 2 weeks. And I give credit to Beamer teams, as always, no matter how bad they may look 1 week or through a set of weeks, they always seem to come out there fired up, ready to go. Doesn't seem to really be a lot of hangover or lethargicness to teams like that. And again, they went out there and handled their business Saturday, which is again the most important thing at the end of the day.
Well, let's also address that once again they came back out and they give up the opening touchdown, and it was a bad drive for the defense as Kentucky went down and had no problem. But the offense came back and answered again. Mm-hmm. I mean, the offense again, that opening drive that Mike Shula scripts, man, Mike Shula might have some flaws. The opening drive is not one of them. It is not one of them.
He might be the best opening drive scripter in all of college football. It's what happens after that is where we run into problems.
But I agree. Now, I don't know about negativity and adversity. I do think the fan base, obviously, Shane had said it last week, 2-2 is not where they wanted to be. So there's nothing wrong with the fan base saying or being a little more vocal, given the way college football is now and given the expectations for the season. But I don't know about negativity and adversity. There's still a lot on the line, as we said. This team, all the goals, as Preston Thorne would say, all the goals are still in front of them. You can still win the SEC, I reckon. You can still get to the college football playoff. You can still beat the Clemson Tigers. There's a lot. All your goals are technically still in front of you. So there's still a lot to play for. So to say, well, they bounce back, yeah, okay. Well, I hope they do. Otherwise, that's a sign of bad culture, and I don't think that's what South Carolina has. I love the fact that the defense made adjustments. I really, again, am high on. I'm higher probably the most on this defense because I felt, Tyler, that you knew there was going to be a drop-off when you had 5 draft picks, when you lose the defensive lineman that they lost, but it was going to take time, and I thought Clayton White could slowly rebuild this defense. And to me, the big part is you got linebackers there in J.O. and Fred Johnson who are young. Mm-hmm. And, yes, they got exposed by Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, with all the play action, with all the window dressing, all the motion, exposed them. And Missouri did the same. And those guys are going to have to grow. but I thought they grew more this week. I thought your defensive line started to grow. We mentioned it. Brian Thomas Jr. is named SEC Co-Defensive Lineman of the Week. Dylan Stewart stepped up a little bit. I feel like the interior guys are improving each and every week. I am worried about the depth there, the quality depth, but they also, by the way, I don't know, one of the big adjustments they went to was a bare front. You saw go to the 3 interior defensive linemen with the 2 kind of edges on the side. And so that was a big thing. But that defense to me is growing. And I'm really excited to see him with a bye week, get some guys healthy, get Judge Collier back. Brandon Cisse played really, really good again. Obviously, the safeties are coming along, the backup safeties with Kilgore and Peyton Williams to help you with DQ Smith and everybody. I'm liking where this continue to work on tackling, continue to work on the fundamentals, but they're coming along.
Yeah, you have reason to believe they're going to give you an opportunity to be competitive in just about every single game. And I know we give a lot of praise to what the Edges were doing on Saturday with their sacks, and Nick Barrett got one in there as well. But, I mean, J.R. Johnson, I think, missed just barely on about 3 different sacks himself. He was all over the place on Saturday night, too. And, again, this is a guy that we're now talking about 5 games into being a starter. So, still getting his feet under him a little bit in terms of the extended play time. But yeah, you see a lot of upside. Again, you mentioned Judge Collier should be ready to go, full go for LSU coming up here in a couple weeks, and that's going to be a big plus on the back end of your defense because they have been trying to pick on your secondary as much as possible in terms of him being out. So things seem to finally start be clicking a little bit with this defense. Again, the fundamental things about tackling, which they went back to the drawing board and improved on this week, that you hope will continue going forward as well.
And I think, look, I don't think they're going to be perfect against LSU. I don't think they're going to be perfect against Oklahoma. But I truly feel like that this defense is again, taking the steps as a younger defense. Now, next year, yeah, you're going to have to replace Jalen Kilgore, probably going to have to replace Judge Collier, obviously going to have to replace DQ Smith. So you got to have that secondary ready. But we'll see where they go. And, again, I thought – against Missouri, the tackling stunk. We all know that. I'm not trying to say that I'm not trying to excuse that, but that the defense bowed up when you had to have them bow up. And I think Clayton White's group, I think Clayton White's coaches, we just mentioned it, you and I off air, Travian Robertson has just put out a tweet. I guess in the last little while, it's just some pictures of the car wreck and him in the hospital. And, obviously thoughts and prayers with he and his family. What an odd year when you talk about Travian Robertson and now Connor Shaw. But getting Travian Robertson back to work with that group, that'll be important slowly and through time. And, again, I think you're going to see this defense continue to grow over the back half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw that last year. Now, again, they came out of the gate, and obviously, they were the reason why you won the game against Old Dominion because the offense couldn't really get anything going, played really good against Kentucky. Gave up a lot of points against LSU, but really kind of clamped down in the back half of the season when Carolina went on their winning streak. And, again, you're going to need the defense to play that well, considering the opponents that you have. And, again, the fact that we're celebrating the fact the offense finally scored 21 points in a game is, it kind of tells you where they're at as of right now. And, I don't know if the offense is suddenly going to get better. I doubt it. But if your defense can play well, it's going to give you opportunities in all these games at the very least. You're not going to win all these games. That's just an impossible task for anybody, I feel like. But if you can manage to win a handful of them and put yourself in a better position, hopefully make a really good bowl game, then I think this year can still be salvageable for something at the end of the day. And, again, I could be wrong. I think go out there and beat everybody and be world beaters at the end of the day. I don't see this team doing that. But, again, you have a defense, you're going to at least give yourself a shot.
Yeah, we'll get more into it next week, but the Mississippi game, I'm like, oh, boy. Mississippi's the one. Old Lane, everybody looked at last year as the year he was supposed to get to the playoff and do this and do that. He might have been 1 year behind on that. They look really good. And the fact that you're going to come off of the Oklahoma and Alabama games, the fact that you get Oklahoma and Alabama here in Columbia, I think is big, and we'll discuss that more in the coming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, winning is the most important thing at the end of the day. Now you get a chance to retool, focus on some things, get guys healthy again, especially when we talk about the offensive line. Has had several guys go down on Saturday night, and you're already without Casey Henry and Nolan Hay going into that game. Marky Anderson got hurt on Saturday, so you're pretty banged up front, and there was concern enough going in. You just hope guys can heal up in the next 2 weeks to put yourself in a good position with those guys going forward as well.
Big 2 weeks. I noticed at the end it looked like Josiah Thompson had been pulled as well. So you create some open competition, try and find a combination of 5 that can get you through the end of the season.
Yeah, just Chavis Shivers got out
Yep.
there at one point.
Yep.
He sprung that block on, I think, Faison's second touchdown.
Okay.
And he was lined up as the true tackle because they had a tight end on the other side. But he got out there in kind of a blink and you miss type thing, and Marquis Anderson was out there for a little bit. So yeah, I hope we're not going down the path we did 2 years ago where you're just rotating offensive linemen like, musical chairs. But the injuries are adding up a bit right there right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So we'll get Jamie Bradford's thoughts on the other side as Reaction Monday rolls along. Also, let us know your thoughts. Firehouse Subs text line 803-404-6100 as the halftime show rolls along here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Ed Bird producing on the other side of the glass and your Reaction Monday. And as we do each Monday, we get our thoughts from our guy Jamie Bradford, who's joining us now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. And Jamie, we talked about it last week. Obviously, not a great performance the prior 2 weeks against Vanderbilt and Missouri. Got to go out there and do your job, and at the end of the day, get a win against Kentucky. And it's exactly what Carolina did. And now they head into the bye week with at least a nice semblance of momentum before the task of the back half of the schedule comes up.
Yeah, no doubt. Good to be with y'all again. Yeah, South Carolina certainly did some things on Saturday that you could tell that they were working on, things that they need to improve. And this series over the last few years really has been decided. I mean, if you go back and look, Tyler, at the last 3 games that they've won, now including this one 4, but prior to that, the 3 that they had won in a row, and even the 4th one that they lost in the Shane Beamer era back in 2021, Kentucky defensively usually does a pretty good job against the Gamecocks. The difference has been the turnovers, and Carolina was +7 in that department coming into this game, and now I guess they're +11. So good win, and you get to keep working on it here with a bye week coming up.
Yeah, you brought up something real quick that was I didn't think about until you just said it. This series has always been, over the last decade and a half, has been very competitive. It's been a grinded out series, and South Carolina's now won 2 games really handily in this thing where you're not sweating it in the fourth quarter. And Shane, I think, even addressed that a little bit on Saturday night, talking about the 4th win over them. And Jamie, I don't know if we got into it last week with you, but the fact that we're going to keep Kentucky as a permanent opponent, I like this little series. I like this little rivalry. And there's some chippiness. We saw that on Saturday night. This is a good little series for us to keep for a couple more years.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I mean, it wasn't obviously much of a series until Kentucky, about a decade ago, won those 5 in a row. But, I mean, I certainly agree with that. I mean, I think that these 2 teams they both look at each other and think, like when the schedules come out, that's one that the South Carolina side and the Kentucky side, they both look at it and go, oh, okay, well, we can win that game. I mean, it just is what it is. And so now Kentucky, obviously, they're having some trouble beating the Gamecocks these days, and next year they get to play them again back in Williams-Brice Stadium. But, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they certainly think it's a winnable game, and they're very frustrated when they lose.
Again, talking to Jamie Bradford on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines here in your Reaction Monday. One of the biggest things that I think everybody was thrilled to see on Saturday was Sellers use his feet a little bit more, had quite a few scrambles. We saw some of those LaMagic plays like he made a year ago where he was getting out of sacks and dumping guys over his shoulders and turning something into nothing, essentially. And he talked about it after the game. It wasn't a change in game plan. It was him being more aggressive, but he just seemed more comfortable. And again, it's Kentucky. You certainly got tougher opponents coming down the stretch, but I certainly think we all hope this is the spark of him kind of getting back to playing the way he did a year ago, where you see more of those plays being made, and he just looks more loose and free than he had the past couple weeks, where maybe it felt like he was overthinking things too much there in the pocket.
Well, I mean, I would say throughout the season, I mean, I think Kentucky's better than Virginia Tech, and he just seemed more like he was bound and determined to do what he's comfortable doing, if that makes sense. Like there were some plays in there where, like the ones that are on the highlight reels today, that, he certainly probably could have looked downfield and tried to do something a little bit different, maybe do what's more traditional, but he's just so comfortable being uncomfortable. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I think that is part of what's best for South Carolina. Like, is it your ideal perfect offense? Well, of course it isn't. But you got Lenore Sellers, and they don't have him. It doesn't matter who they is. The other side doesn't have this guy. He's capable of doing those things, and the other guy isn't. So, I mean, I don't think that – I mean, obviously I'm not an offensive coordinator or a quarterback's coach or anything like that, but I would venture a guess that when you got a guy who's capable of just deflating the other side with his legs, with his arm, whatever it is, just through his creativity, sometimes you just let those guys be who they are and let the chips fall where they fall, and generally those chips fall in Carolina's favor.
One of the things with him, and we kind of talked about this earlier, I do like where the passing game is going. I know they've got flaws. They got flaws with the run game. The offensive line has got to get better. I get all that. But I talked about it. Vandrevius Jacobs is stepping up. Love him. Nick Harbor, now 11 catches, 220 yards on the season. And that's something I hope that, listen, I don't know if this run game is going to get it fixed, but that they're willing to let Lenoris throw it around a little bit more, because Donovan Murph has stepped up at times. Brian Rowe, the tight ends, and Brady Hunt and Dingle and Michael Smith, we know that they're capable. Jamie and Tyler, that to me can make this offense truly dynamic. I think Lenoris, right now he's throwing at 67% on the season, 4 touchdowns and an interception. But I love the way these wide receivers are developing too.
Oh, I think they've made enormous gains this year. I mean, you could argue it's the group that has developed the most, I think. I mean, maybe you'd lose that argument, but you'd have a pretty good one. But, I mean, I would say this, too, about the run game. Like let's think about it the way that they're thinking about it in the building, instead of just staring at the numbers and then looking at the number of attempts and then saying, oh, well, without Sellers, that run game isn't very good. Well, guess what? You know, Sellers is part of the run game, period. So, I mean, you want the numbers to be better, then you're going to have to run him. And he ran it 14 times the other night. But, guys, when they got down into the red zone, like some of the issues they've had this year, I mean, this team might be 4-1 if they ran it into the end zone at Missouri, or maybe had a different player or two against Vanderbilt. Who knows what happens in that ball game? They were in there 3 times on Saturday night, and they ran it down Kentucky's throats and right into the end zone. We haven't seen that this year. Have y'all seen it? Because I don't remember seeing it. So, I mean, while people want to complain, and I understand that, it's not like they looked like some juggernaut on the ground on Saturday. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to change anybody's opinions, but I am going to acknowledge the things that they did do well that they haven't been doing well. And while they are throwing the football pretty well, as they've done throughout the year, what they've got some things figured out. At least they had them figured out on Saturday night down in the red zone, putting the ball on the ground and running it into the end zone. So I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah, well, and off of that point, again, talking to Jamie Bradford here on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, we've had several people bring up today that, you know, the most impressive drive of the season may have been the one at the very end of the game. 16 plays, 68 yards, majority of those runs where they just kind of salted the game away until the very end, where they gave it back to Kentucky to run out the clock. But that was the first time this year, and I get it. You know, I don't remember if Kentucky had backups in at that point or not, but they certainly weren't engaged like they'd be in a one-score ball game or something along those lines. But still, to be able to actually run the ball at will for the first time this year was nice to see. Again, the stuff up the middle where you're getting 1 to 2 yards, yeah, you'd like to maybe see them get away from that a little bit more, but you finally did see some kind of pulse with the run game, which was nice and certainly something you're going to need over the course of the next 7 games to close out the regular season.
Yeah, and they picked and obviously if you have 16 plays on a drive, Tyler, that means you've converted some third downs, right? So they converted 3 or 4 third downs on that drive, and yes. Like that's a confidence thing too, and Matthew Fuller being in there getting a bunch of carries. I think you're going to continue to see more of him because they obviously have issues, and you hope that those issues will continue to kind of slowly get fixed or quickly, just get fixed, right? When it comes to running the ball. But if you are going to have trouble running it, it's nice to have a guy who, I mean, what's better, 2nd and 11 or 2nd and 9? Now, neither one are great, but give me the 9 versus the 11, and he's a guy who might be able to help get you there a little bit. So, you know, him getting a lot of that, kind of getting his shoulders banged around a little bit. I mean, I just think that's something that'll continue to help. I mean, they've got the best defense that they've seen this season is coming up in 2 weeks in Baton Rouge. So they're going to have to be somewhat productive on the ground with the run game. And sometimes that doesn't mean running for 200 yards or 150 yards. Sometimes it just means running it when you need to be able to run it. And they did a lot of that late in the game to put it away.
It will be interesting. The last 3 years, I don't know, they came off of a bye week against Kentucky 3 years ago in 2022, and that was a game in which they put up 24 points up there and kind of got going. But the last 2 years, now one of them was a loss, But if you remember the offense, there was a lot of questions about it in 2023. They came off the bye week, shuffled some offensive linemen around, and ended up putting up 39 points on Florida in that game. Last year it was 44 points coming off of the bye week against Texas A&M. So I am interested to see what this staff can look at, self-evaluate, and kind of come back and change a little bit when we see them against LSU. Because you're right, that LSU defense is aggressive. And Howard Perkins, he's going to be waiting on Lenore Sellers. He is a neutralizer that's going to make it hard on Sellers. But what changes you make to gear up for LSU, followed by Oklahoma, followed by Alabama, I think that's the really interesting thing for me in terms of coaching.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so, like, the crazy thing about, I mean, trying to tie it all in here, and I know we're probably up against a break, but just real quick is, look, LSU's offense, it doesn't look like LSU's offense at all, right? And now you're going to be down there, you're going to be at night, and you don't have to go in there, I don't think, based on what we've seen, and obviously, clearly LSU's got an off week, so they're going to be working on some things. But this isn't what we thought it might be before the season, where it's like, man, we got to go to Baton Rouge. Shoot, they're going to need to go in there and find a way to score 35, 40 points. I don't know that that's the case. You know, South Carolina's defense is going to go up against an offense that's still trying to figure themselves out too. Maybe Nussmeier's a little banged up. I don't know. So you just have to find a way to convert when you need to convert. And like I said, you know, sometimes if you can just run it here and there when you need to run it here and there and let Lenoris do Lenoris things, that might be enough down there, but they'll have to continue to work on it.
More Jamie Bradford on the other side as the halftime show continues and your reaction Monday here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. Halftime show. Saturday, Bill Gunner, Ed Bird on your Reaction Monday here on the game. Continuing our conversation with our guy, Jamie Radford, joining us on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, coming off heels of South Carolina's 35-13 win over Kentucky as they head into the bye week. And we talked a lot about offense there in that first segment, but Bill and I have been talking on and off all show long about what the guys on defense did. And again, it's Kentucky. They were starting a redshirt freshman quarterback, first road start in the SEC. Like, you know, they weren't going to come in here and put up 500 yards on Carolina by any means. But most importantly, you saw improvements from a week ago when it came to, came to the tackling. Obviously, fewer missed tackles in this game, fewer penalties in this game, just overall a cleaner game. And you saw the edge room especially really come alive on Saturday night and probably give Cutter Boley what will be his story of what was your welcome to the SEC moment taking on Carolina.
Yeah, he probably got a lengthy ice bath yesterday. I mean, he got popped quite a few times in that game. A few of those guys got popped. You know, the crazy thing was, too, Kentucky had just 232 yards of total offense, and as good as that sounds, they had 141 in the first quarter on their first two drives. So that means they had 90 the rest of the game. I mean, they really played really well up front, and this is the most similar that it's looked to the group that ran that defense last year. Now, does that sustain itself? Of course, we don't really know. But I mean, Tyler, if I ask you, who do you think played the best on Saturday night up front? Your answer, my answer, Bill's answer, Ed's answer, random caller's answer, you probably would have 3, 4, or 5 different answers. I mean, a lot of guys really got in there and flashed, and they're going to have to stay healthy and continue to do that. And if they can, and they can get back to creating turnovers and maybe getting you a cheap score every so often and things like that, South Carolina will have a good chance. I mean, they got quite the gauntlet coming up, so they're going to need things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the defense isn't young. I don't want to label them as young, but there are players, there are pieces to that defense that are going to grow over a period with this team. And the guy that I'm watching, and you mentioned it, and I wouldn't say he played the best, but is Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, who's starting to become a real middle piece in their defensive tackle. And hopefully you can find another guy. Right now I know they're hoping it's Goodwine that can kind of line up with him. And then you got to really get the interior guys, and they were talking about it on television a little bit, they've got to build quality depth. You got bodies. They're not lacking on bodies, but some of those guys have to step up, whether, it's a guy, Nick Barrett, has got to play better. You've got a few other guys there that have got to step up and play. Devontae Miles has got to get a little bit better. I think it's Troy Pikes as well has got to play a little bit better. But that interior of the line, they're going to get tested against LSU. LSU's not run the ball effectively, and we'll see how healthy, I believe it's Caden Durham is in 2 weeks. But I like this. I like where this defense is going. And they've got to land a few more recruits, and then you're going to have to hit the transfer portal. But I like what Clayton White is doing here.
Yeah, well, Bill, they're not young by age, but, right. I mean, as a unit, they're young. I mean, all right, so let's frame this a little bit differently. You've been in radio for, 30 years, right? What are you almost 60?
That's a rough take right there.
Okay, I'm just kidding. All right, so I've been in the media for 12 years. You've been in the media for
16.
Probably 16 years. I was going to say 15. And Tyler, you've been in the media for how long?
About 7 years.
Okay, but the three of us have never worked together, and you two just started on the same show together, right?
Yep.
So if you put the three of us on one program, we've all done it. We've all got experience. We all have our ways of doing things. And then you put a producer in there. It's going to take everybody some time to make that the best show that you can make it. And that's the same thing with these guys. I mean, you're talking about, I mean, some guys have had some little, nicks and bang-ups and things like that here and there. So you're talking about rotations. You're talking about health. You're talking about communication. I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into this. It's not like you just roll out the next unit and just because they're all good players, they just run out there and everybody's awesome. Like, it takes a little bit of time for everybody to kind of get used to things. And, Travian hasn't been around, God bless him, with what he's going through and things like that. So, yeah, they're not young. They can all legally go out and have a drink at a bar, or at least most of them can. Maybe not Dylan, but they are young when it comes to one another. And again, as y'all pointed out, look, Kentucky with the redshirt freshmen, maybe they're not very good, et cetera, et cetera. That's all true, but you still have to go out there and perform. And the other night, like, their aggressiveness, that's the most aggressive I've seen them this year, and it seemed like they were on a mission. They were tackling well. Like, all those things were coming together. So, it's more about you than about the other group sometimes, and maybe that's where we are with this group here as they kind of keep growing up.
Well, in a game like this allows you to come away from it knowing that you did your job correctly, and the missed tackles were obviously a big concern going in. Defense did a lot better job of that on Saturday night. And getting back to kind of the whole team aspect here, the lack of pre-snap penalties was also huge. You had half of them of your 14 last week against Missouri be pre-snap, and only one of those happened on Saturday night. So obviously that is a very big step in the right direction. And going back to what you were saying earlier about, the third downs and all that kind of stuff, when you're not putting yourself in position for first and 15s and second and 15s, that certainly helps out a lot. So another positive of things going in the right direction that hopefully holds true after the bye week as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely think so. They had, 5 total penalties the other night, and one of those was the first kickoff of the game, which, obviously they had something scouted there because the second kickoff was basically the same thing. But, yeah, no, look, I totally agree. How many rushing yards did Kentucky end with the other night? Like 140?
Let me see here. Sounds about right.
It was somewhere
108. 41
yeah,
carries
108.
for 108.
And so that was after the sacks. So last year Brock Vandegrift and that run game. I mean, this is the best that South Carolina's defense has played against Kentucky's run game in the Shane Beamer era. If y'all go back and look at the numbers, this is the best that they've done against it in the Shane Beamer era. So I mean, Kentucky always runs the football. Seth McGowan had a nice night the other night. But, I mean, South Carolina overall, I mean, the tackles for loss, the sacks, the tackling, I mean, limiting, what down and distance on third down. I mean, it was pretty darn good. And, again, you take those last 3 quarters, they gave up 90 yards. I mean, that. I don't care who you're playing. That's spectacular.
Real quick. We haven't discussed it today. Thoughts, Seth McGowan throwing a football off of I saw it. I was watching at home, and when I saw it, I was like, did he just do that? And then he comes out with the apology and everything. Tyler, was there discussion of this in the press box? Or
I don't think we realized he had hit somebody until much later, and lo and behold, it ended up being Seller's granddad of all people.
All things.
You're right. He did apologize and put out a statement on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But, man, of all the tens of thousands of people there that he could have hit, the quarterback on the other side's granddad. That's a small world right there for sure.
Should he be punished? Should the SEC punish him? Should they say you got to sit out a quarter?
We ever seen them punish somebody for a celebration before?
No, not for. I mean, this is a little different.
It is because you are injuring a fan to that degree. I don't know. I don't know if they will.
They won't. They won't. No, they won't. Jamie, do you punish him for? Does he sit a quarter? Should he? He won't. They're not going to do anything. Which is, But should he have to sit a quarter?
No, I don't think so. But they should punish the officials who watched him throw it and didn't throw a flag on it.
That's a good point.
What are we doing? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, does it feel? It feels to me like there have been more egregious plays or celebrations or whatever across college football this year that people just like the officiating crews. It's like they're not even watching the game. I mean, like what happened in the Wake Forest Georgia Tech game the other day. Like, how do you let that happen? I don't know, but I don't think he should be punished. I mean, he wasn't trying to hit Seller's granddad. He just flung the football and it smoked him. But,
yeah.
I mean, now if he like reared back and threw a spiral right into his face, like that's what he was trying to do. The kid should probably be suspended for a while, but I don't think he threw it underhand. That wasn't intentional.
Last 60 seconds here. I brought up earlier Connor Shaw coming out of the Cockaboose as the celebrity starter, one of the loudest moments I've ever heard. Where does that one rank for you?
Yeah, nobody knew that was coming. I don't even think Shane knew. I mean, that was That was so good to see. I've been meaning to send him a text and just let him know how awesome that was. Like we mentioned last week, we know a lot of people in our circle here who've been going through some major health things, and hat tip to Connor and his son. That ranks up there, with like really cool moments in that stadium that don't have to do with football. That's up there. That military celebration back in 2012. Y'all remember that?
Yep.
Remember that, Bill, when the guy came out?
I know exactly what you talking about. They surprised who was it? They surprised the family, right? They surprised the family. They brought the family out, and then the lieutenant or whatever showed up. Yeah.
Yeah. Great moment.
We've had some things like that. So that's up there. There's no question about it. So that's a lot better than what the fans in New York did to Rory this weekend. But y'all can have me back on to talk golf on Thursday or something.
Jamie, appreciate it as always. Talk to you next week, man.
Have a great week, guys.
Thank you. And that military video, by the way, most viewed on the Gamecocks YouTube channel still to this day. We'll come back, wrap up the show, halftime show here in Your Reaction Monday on the Game.
Is he okay?
Yeah, no, he was good.
I mean, did you talk to Seth at all? Did you surprise there wasn't a penalty thrown or anything?
Seth?
McGowan?
Who? No, I didn't talk to him, no, I just went to him after the game, not if he was good and all that, but.
Sorry, so he told you about it? You didn't notice it was your grandpa during the game?
No, I saw it before. I saw everything happen. So.
Did you have a reaction, or valid to do or not? I guess.
I saw it when I was like, they showed it on the Jumbotron. I was like, oh, yo, that's my granddaddy. And.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Bill Gunner wrapping the show in Your Reaction Monday. Lenore Sellers reacting or telling us how he reacted to his grandfather getting hit by Seth McGowan's touchdown celebration, and about the most Lenore Sellers way, I guess, possible. And they showed it on, there's like a camera on the sidelines that was documenting everything. You can see him see it on the Jumbotron. He's like, oh, that is my granddad. Like, still just very as calm, cool, and collected as can be.
Yeah, he's Lenore. We kind of joked with him about his excitement when he scored the touchdown against Clemson and how fired up he got. But he's a calm, cool customer. And look, Seth McGowan, he put out, I'm sure with the help of Kentucky and their sports information department, put out an apology, and hopefully he'll maybe do the right thing. I'm sure he's got some NIL money. Maybe he can make a donation to a charity or something. I don't know, something. Who knows? But a little inappropriate. You don't need to be throwing a football into the bush, but then if you miss the bush, you take out a fan in the process.
Well, and he said after the game that he was trying to throw the ball at the ground, which I don't believe. There's a different process of throwing a ball down and throwing a ball forward like that. I do believe he was aiming for the bushes, and it just went a little high. And I don't think he looks at, all right, hey, there's an older guy in a wheelchair. Let me go bean him with the football. Like, I don't think that was his thought process there. But like I said, I don't imagine the league's going to do anything about that. I feel like it should have been flagged in the moment. Like, that's, again, anytime you're interacting with the fans, throwing things at them, that's always a no-go. But I highly doubt the league's going to come down. The league doesn't even come down on its own officials when they screw up. I doubt they're going to come down on a player like that.
No, interesting thing. And again, to me, all it does is add a little bit of spice.
That's true.
To this little rivalry. Again, we saw it. By the way, man, how did it look on television? For those of us watching on television, because you talk about the way the half ended, right?
Yes.
The hit by Dylan Stewart on the Kentucky player to wrap up the half looked almost as violent a hit as I've seen on television. And there was some hits on Saturday night. I had a couple of the TVs going. I was watching a couple of games. That Alabama-Georgia game, they're smoking each other out there. But on television, in real, where you're sitting in the press box, you've got the 100-yard view. You can see everything. So you might be able to see Dylan Thompson coming and be like, uh-oh, here he comes.
Yeah.
Whereas on television, you just zoned in, and all of a sudden you see out of nowhere just a violent collision, and it sparks off a little bit of a brouhaha going into halftime.
And I think Wes mentioned this because he was watching at home on TV as well, that Tom Hart was almost kind of letting you know about what was going to happen because Stewart wasn't in frame, and then boom, comes in there and cleans him out. And I couldn't, because of how similar their jersey numbers look, I thought it was J.R. Johnson at first. And until I went back and watched the replay, I was like, oh, that was Dylan Stewart. But yeah, and God just loves to hit people, right? And he's been frustrated the first couple games because he hasn't gotten to do that quite as much. So I think he let out a lot of frustration there. And there was chippiness. You had the situation where Trevon Ball basically blocked the guy into the sidelines, and he took his helmet off, and that started a little bit of a ruckus there. So yeah, there's more layers to this game that, again, we're going to get every single year now going forward, guaranteed, that I think adds to what is definitely becoming a rivalry in the SEC.
Payout is pretty substantial for Mark Stoops, so I don't foresee them, and I got to imagine Kentucky, all their money is being spent into the Kentucky basketball program, so I would imagine we'll keep Mark Stoops around for a few years here to continue this little kind of back and forth. Because you're right, I get the feeling that there's a respect between he and Shane Beamer.
Sure.
But there is not Christmas cards and or text messages being exchanged on holidays.
If you ask their respective wives how they feel about each other, I'm sure we'd get some not safe for work things said about the other.
So I'm excited. We'll get to keep that one. And now you go into the bye week. Real quick, Sam Pittman being relieved of duties.
Not surprised. I love Uncle Sam. He's very entertaining, but the way they've lost games so far this year and to get obliterated at home like that by Notre Dame.
Didn't see that coming.
They weren't going in the right direction.
I think we did our picks. I had Arkansas pulling the upset, and that was obviously not competitive anywhere at all.
Yeah, definitely an ugly way to end there, and he knew it was coming. He took accountability for it, and now
he's paid well.
Bobby Petrino is once again the head coach of Arkansas.
He wants to keep that house in Arkansas. He's going to be. He could pay it off. He'll be just fine.
Or he could go become a really good offensive line coach somewhere because he's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And the message boards are already putting out the rumors. We'll talk more about plenty of that stuff and what else happened around college football coming up tomorrow. This has been the Halftime Show here on your Reaction Monday on the Game.